light, ever expanding and illuminating truth, which is always revealed with wisdom, a spiritual nutrient necessary for vitality that is maintained through selflessness, a filter of ether that aids purity, which is love. Love, a limitless paper lantern floating into infinity on the intentions and actions of initiates of the mysteries. Welcome, fellow Phoenixes, to the Spiritual Phoenix Podcast, where we make a daily offering to the divine by putting our past on the pyre, searching the smoke for spirituality, turning the ashes into art, adapting isolation into connection, and manifesting mental wellness. I'm your host, Ross Cessna, and together we are the Spiritual Phoenix. The intent of this show isn't to tell you what to think, but to get you to think and originally articulate yourself in a way that is uplifting. We are the artists of our lives, and today is a blank canvas. Let's collectively create a better tomorrow. I'd like to throw this out there now. If you like the podcast, if you could drop me a review, it would really help me. You can leave me a review on iTunes, and that'll help me reach new people, so other people can hear this. If you benefit from this, and would like more people to get to listen to it. Also, if you have a topic you want to hear discussed or something you want me to read or play on air, or a 1 minute or less poem you'd like me to put on the sister podcast, the Phoenix Poetry Podcast, call the Phoenix voicemail line at 480-535-2561. And right now, I'd like to take a moment and focus on what we're grateful for today. Today, I'm grateful that the situation that I encountered over this past week wasn't enough to lead me out of recovery, wasn't enough to have me pick up, wasn't enough to have me throw away almost a year of clean time. Didn't have any further reaching consequences than the ones that I encountered from it. And I'm grateful for the support group that I have, and also for my connection to my higher power, as well as my own tenacity and the emotional toolbox that I have built up of coping mechanisms to help me process the situation in a healthy way. This is really like the first big difficult thing that I've encountered in regards to since I've been free from drugs and alcohol, or drugs, alcohol being one of them, and also free from my mental health medication. And I handled it really well, honestly, all things considered. I'd like to get into a couple quotes now, and then I'll get into the topic. Without self-knowledge, without understanding the working and functions of his machine, man cannot be free. He cannot govern himself, and he will always remain a slave. And that was said by G.I. Gurdjieff. I probably butchered that name. The next one is, a human being has so many skins inside, covering the depths of the heart. We know so many things, but we don't know ourselves. Why? 30 or 40 skins or hides, as thick and hard as an ox's or bear's, cover the soul. Go into your own ground and learn to know yourself there. That was said by Meister Eckhart. And so let me get into these things. I said that I had this situation or the experience, and originally that I thought it was what one of my friends did, and the further and further that I investigated the circumstance, the more and more apparent it became that the situation actually was me. The problem was me. And I find that for a lot of us, we like to project our part in the problem onto other people. These people made me feel this way. These people did this, so I reacted this way. And then when the shit blows up in our face, we hold these resentments toward these other people for how we processed it, for how we dealt with it, for what we actively did in those situations. And in this situation, it was no different, to where I put a lot of stuff on my friend, and the further I got away from the situation and the more I looked at it, it was me projecting. Maybe not everybody does that, but I'm sure a lot of people can relate, or if they actually investigated that thing, that they could relate more. For me, my part in the situation was like months in advance, and it was a way of thinking about things, kind of moving out of a space that was a safe space for me to be in mentally, and moving into this more vulnerable space in some ways. And I'm not saying not to be vulnerable, but I'm saying to be realistic. And I kind of got detached from being in the now and was like thinking about what this could be like in the future, and wanting the relationship to be more than it was, which that can be a good thing, but when you're projecting so far in advance and there's so many different little nuances that can change everything, it really becomes a matter of like, it's unhealthy for me first off, and then it's incredibly unhealthy and unfair to do it for the other person, especially like acknowledging that they're not in that place yet, when they've vocalized that, and then me still kind of maintaining that headspace. And I know that if you've listened to a lot of the episodes of the podcast, you've probably heard me say at one point that I've been a huge piece of shit to women. And in this instance, I didn't handle it well. And I don't mean to minimize my part in the actions whatsoever, because I fucked up, to put it bluntly. But I handled it better than I have. So I've seen some of these wounds healing in lots of ways. The issue is I still acted out from a place of my wounded past, and projected it onto this person now for something that really wasn't even worth me getting upset with if I was present with the way that our friendship was at the time. And really, I ended up pushing this person away, which is, again, one of my old behaviors manifesting, just to push somebody aside and be like, I can't deal with this now, I'm having a hard enough time. The reality is, that's where the solution is sitting in that pain and facing that deep-seated, deep-rooted element of hurt in me, and addressing, why do I feel this way? Why, when this happens in my life, do I do this, and then push it away and then make it myself hurt worse? Why do I do that? And I mean, the best answer that I can come to is fear, sadness, not feeling good enough, feeling rejected, past patterns from people in my life, whether it be different family members or different people romantically, and substance abuse feeding into that, and just this general concept of wanting to run away from anything that's uncomfortable for me. So really sitting with all of that this past weekend, this past 4 or 5 days. I'm recording this on a Tuesday. It won't be probably put out till next week. But it's like, crap. That's so heavy. And the thing that I've learned about all this pain now, I love this person, the other person that I'm talking about. I genuinely do. As a friend in any capacity, they've been there for me. I've learned so much about myself through our friendship. And I need to be able to be there for them, because they didn't do anything wrong. But I also need to realize that they might not want to be there for me now after how I've acted. That's still up in the air. Whatever they decide is cool. But like, I had to realize that, first off, I had to call myself out on it and be like, okay, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have acted that way. That was wrong. I've heard it said so many times, and even today I talked about this in a Facebook group, and somebody's like, hurt people. And that's what I did. So once I moved past my part of the problem, acknowledged that I hurt them probably, more than likely I hurt them by the things that I said and my actions. Once I moved past that, it's a matter of saying, I was wrong, sitting with that, and then being like, it's okay that I was wrong. I have to learn from this mistake, though, and I can't keep perpetuating it forward. I mean, even in acknowledging the behavior, it's quicker than it's ever occurred in my life. I put a shit ton of work into being at that place with it. But I still slipped up on it. And I'm going to make mistakes. I'm human. I'm not going to do everything perfectly. But it's important for me to maintain some kind of honor and integrity, to put myself out there and acknowledge that I was wrong. and hopefully maybe inspire other people to take accountability for their own part in problems. And for me, I was in the victim role when the situation occurred. I was in the victim role. How could you do this to me? How this, how that, why? And the reality is, I did it to myself. And I think when more people can recognize that that's true, the majority of the times and situations that people get upset about nowadays, whether it's their mentality, their actions prior that lead into those situations, or anything along those lines, we can start to liberate ourselves from our own misery, our own self-imposed limiting misery, our own self-imposed beliefs. And it's like, the situation isn't resolved. Her and I have agreed to stop talking to each other. It ended on, like, that was said on good terms, but I felt compelled to write her a physical letter and apologize once I recognized my part. So there's still that out there in the ether, kicking, turning, and maybe I never hear back from it. Maybe I just get to say my piece, apologize, and it's like, it doesn't need acknowledged. And if that's what it is, I'm cool with it. I need to be okay with whatever the outcome of that situation is. Because I have a lot of shit to do, and I have to move forward, and I can't change what I did. I've acknowledged my part in it. So I want to look at these quotes real quick, and then I'm going to kind of cut it off. I just wanted to record this. Without self-knowledge, without understanding the working and functions of his machine, man cannot be free. He cannot govern himself, and he will always remain a slave. So for me, without knowledge of self, when situations like this occur, I hurt. Without understanding the working and functions of his machine. For me, when I hurt, I project it on other people, I act irrationally, and then I try to push people away. Acknowledging that, I can be free. It doesn't say I will be. I have to start to develop that space in those tense situations, that space to not be reactive, and to give it as much space as I need to where I can calm down and look at the situation like in a rational way, because I have this idea where everything needs to be addressed like at light speed, and that's not the case, especially for me. I talked to somebody today, and they were telling me, sometimes our first, second, third, fourth thought aren't the correct thought, and it's like, that's what I need to keep at the forefront of my mind, that my thinking is fucked up. I have made a lot of progress on it, but that progress doesn't negate 32 years of conditioning by the outside world and by my own thinking and actions and like responses. I have to overcome myself. And then the next quote, a human being has so many skins inside, covering the depths of the heart. We know so many things, but we don't know ourselves. Why? 30 or 40 skins or hides, as thick and as hard as an ox's or bear's, cover the soul. Go into your own ground and learn to know yourself there. And it's like this whole experience peeled off this huge layer, and I found like all this spoiled part of my soul down there, like all this rotten meat. I don't want to be too like descriptive, but like it looks fucked under that part of the skin, to put it bluntly. And like acknowledging that, seeing that, I have a lot of work to do. And with that, I just want to say I love, respect, and appreciate all of you. You can follow me on social media at Spiritual Phoenix. I offer free daily tarot readings at Spiritual Phoenix Tarot. I've started a side podcast of 1 minute long poetry called the Phoenix Poetry Podcast. I've put it on all the same platforms as this podcast, so you can find it on whatever podcasting app you're listening to this on, or whatever video thing you're on, probably. Let's see, you can visit the website at thespiritualphoenix.com. I'll be adding more merchandise up there, different things that I've created or that I've designed, and that will be developing over time, and that'll be thespiritualphoenix.com/shop. I love, respect, and appreciate all of you. Love and light. Namaste. Time to put this episode on the pyre. Peace.
Don't believe. Don't follow. Do not consume. Do not watch. Largely what I'm talking about here is reclaiming experience. This is what's been taken from us. It's a self-advancing, self-expanding, self-defining process, and it takes no prisoners.
The real world isn't a spiritual world, it isn't a material world, it isn't an empty world, it isn't a solid world. It's simply